Welcome to the House Judiciary Committee this Friday afternoon, whatever the date is. Morning. It's morning and it's the 27th. And so we are going to get kind of an introduction to H772. Before we turn it over to Representative Bartley, just to give a heads up to what other things we're going to be trying to work on besides 772. I was just in the other committee corrections to talk about H410. They need to look at something. So that one's being postponed. We probably are not going to be getting to 849. I do hope to still vote 744 at some point, so we can say we voted something this week. But we'll go to 772 and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So just identify yourself for the record and tell us the big picture on 772.
Great. Well, for the record, Ashley Bartlett, I represent Fairfax and majority of Georgia. I'm the vice chair of General and Housing, so I am stepping in for our chair today as he is currently on a plane. So 772 is, for all intents and purposes, a rental reform bill. And let's step out of your jurisdiction for a quick second into mine. Housing is something that we deal a majority of. And I think for the last several years, several bienniums, the conversation has been about growing units. It's been about making sure that units are affordable, which is all really great. It's something I'm passionate about. But part of the issue was we were missing a very large subset of the housing crisis. And so that's, it's a relationship idea between landlords and tenants. We've heard, dozens of witnesses, either, in our committee, we've had dozens of people write in, constituents. I know our committee's done a really good job of sharing, my constituent wrote into me about this. So in both landlord and tenant. And one of the things that just has continuously been said, it should be of no surprise to this committee, is that the status quo is not working, that landlords are starting to move away from wanting to do long-term rentals, moving into short-term rentals in the state because they feel that they are protecting their, their assets, their buildings, and tenants just want a safe, healthy place to live. And so the chair really worked hard over the summer at kind of this idea of a grand bargain. Not everybody is going to get exactly what they want, but both sides of the coin are going to get something in hopes of shortening the process, making and just strengthening, again, the relationship between landlords and tenants. So again, this was a really difficult effort given by our committee. We've heard from advocates, those with lived experiences. We've heard, just absolutely awful, grotesque testimony. But really just want to take a second and thank the advocates who came in, who work in this world and really shared their experience and their thoughts. So again, it started this summer with a meeting between legal aid, the chair, and then the Landlords Association, just saying, what do you need? What isn't working and why? And that's kind of the premise of how 772 came to be. At the time, we had 4 or 5 different landlord-tenant bills, all went one way or the other. And it was this effort to try and kind of put everything in one bill in one place. So I will give you kind of the overview. Cameron Wood will be in here, I believe, at 1 today to give the minute details, as he does so well. But really what the onset of this bill, again, is that relationship between landlord and tenant. So one of the things we really focus on, and I just want to note, is we purposely left out terms like just cause, good cause, or no cause, because they tend to be really loaded terms. They're riddled with exemptions in current law. And we just wanted to focus on the actual material of what needs to change. So we, I just kind of want to separate things into kind of 2 buckets, kind of what did the landlords get? What did the tenants get? Because I think that's going to be most helpful. Again, the 33-page bill. So I just want to start with provisions that kind of that are applicable in all cases. So in all cases, security deposit is limited to 2 months rent. So we heard testimony that sometimes security deposits could be upwards of 6 months rent. Again, a security deposit is meant to be a deposit. The landlord is not supposed to spend it elsewhere. It's supposed to be held and given back to the tenant. And in all cases, rent may not be increased more than once per 12 months. So that was originally, there was some rent caps still. We took that out. We didn't feel it was tenable for landlords, let alone tenants to, if that, we were concerned about how many times a landlord might try to raise the rent. So that's how we chose once per 12 months. In all cases, eviction processes remain confidential unless and until judgment for the landlord. In all cases, major code violations are an absolute defense to eviction. So what that means is if a landlord is breaking fire code, the tenant can withhold payment and they cannot get evicted for that. So I wanted to go over those briefly because that's kind of, in all cases, that's what's covered. But of course, we're talking about how people live in their space. We're all different. Each landlord's different. There are some really great landlords out there. There are some really great tenants. So that kind of gets down to what the problem is. So starting off, this bill addresses tenant actions that endanger the safety or health of other tenants, the landlord or landlord's agent. So this has become major issues. I'm sure you are all aware, where landlords, specifically, we've heard from nonprofit entities such as the Champlain Housing Trust, who are the largest landlords in the state, who really needed some sort of stipulation like this, are finding it almost impossible to deal with drug dealers, either as tenants or using the apartments of tenants who are powerless to stop them. So it's kind of been coded as the Decker Tower incident, where people are getting invited in. There's really no way of getting them out. So we address the dangerous or violent tenant through a special show cause process that is faster and simpler. It includes provisions from other bills that we had that address the dangerous tenant by expanding trespass laws that I think originally in here, and we've heard it, we took testimony, and we just included that language. So non-payment of rent is the most common. I think we heard from legal aid that 70% of evictions come from non-payment of rent. And really, it's socially the most difficult one, especially in this economy. How can somebody, it doesn't take that far to fall into poverty these days, when a lot of our residents in Vermont are already at that line. So there's a solution because of two realities: the absence in the U.S. of a good social safety net, and the reality that our society chooses to provide a fundamental human need, housing, through private businesses that must function financially. So in a lot of other countries, we see that this is a social good that is provided by the government, which we don't have in the U.S. and in Vermont. So what this does, there's a faster eviction process. So currently, Vermont's eviction process is lengthy, expensive, and complex. We are an outlier amongst, I think, most or all states. It can take upwards of 6 months or longer for a no-pause eviction. For a non-payment of rent. Unless, and then so this bill proposes that it takes approximately 60 to 70 days from filing. As Cameron later today goes through the bill, something he provided for us was a timeline. He had set it up through the 5 different bills that we were looking at, but it was really helpful to understand what we are looking at in current law. So I'm sure he can help answer questions regarding like specific timelines. this bill does fund various programs to assist tenants. So we fund, there's an appropriations for the Vermont State Housing Authority's Rental Arrears Assistance Fund. So that is a program, it's not a new program. It's something that's already funded, it's already working. And it's something that obviously we are providing relief for tenants there, but it's also helping our landlords in return as they're actually getting paid. They're actually getting that back rent that they might be out of. Funding for CVOEO for a statewide tenant and landlord classes. So this bill asks them to put together a course of, how to be a good landlord, how to be a good tenant. I always say my husband's grandmother is the sweetest woman in the world, and she lives in a large house. She rents out she has an apartment. She doesn't know what she's doing. She has met somebody in the grocery store who's looking for a house, and she's like, oh, I have a unit, which is great. But also it's going to give individuals like that, our small landlords, some, kind of best practices. Funding for a statewide positive rental payment credit reporting program. Currently, rent is not included in the credit reports. This is something that would go through the Treasurer's Department. And currently, the Champlain Housing Trust already has a very small form of this program. And then funding rental omnibus persons in CAP agencies. So really, again, helping those who might be at a point where they're about to get evicted. They just need some assistance of maybe they don't understand the process of eviction. I got a notice to quit. What do I do now? So again, a lot of it is about learning, is about education. So understanding that a lot of this could feel like we're giving a lot to the landlords, we wanted to make sure we're also providing for tenants. So we kind of had this idea of landlord initiated situations. So that's going to include landlord decisions. So not to renew a lease, to convert the building for their own family use, to remodel the building, to convert to condominiums or sell the building. None of that is prevented in this bill. However, landlords must give 3 months notice to allow tenant more time to find alternative housing. So right now, our housing market is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
So the 3-month thing is you had a list of 3 or 4 things. One is selling condos.
Yes. So it's, and again, I will be very candid. I don't think anybody in our committee was like, this is the best bill we have ever passed. I think it's a bill that we all have things we like. We all have things we would change. The idea behind this is if I, as a landlord, decide not to renew your lease, or if I'm going to sell the building to somebody else, what it would do is you have to provide 90 days or 3 months to a tenant saying, this is what's going to happen. And that's because right now, we heard testimony that somebody posted a unit and 2 hours later it was filled. That is not an anomaly in the state of Vermont right now. We just don't have the inventory for rental units, let alone regular, single family. And I think that's what's exacerbating this issue. And so it's like this idea of things that the landlord can control. I personally would have loved to see some sort of stipulation of is the landlord, we heard, somebody was sick. Does the landlord have to sell a building to pay for medical treatment, or they're now moving to Florida to care for somebody? Where you can't necessarily give those 3 months. Again, I'm grateful that it's going over to the Senate. Hopefully there's more work to be done. Security deposits must be returned before termination rather than currently where return occurs after the termination date. Currently, a landlord has 14 days to return a security deposit. If on day 15 that security deposit is not returned, the landlord has to pay double the security deposit. The idea behind this is so that the tenant can use the deposit for their next rental, because most likely they're also going to have to pay an additional security deposit there. So granted, one of the things I'll just kind of go over really briefly what is not included in this, of course. Yeah,
Oh, that 14 days, is
Yeah.
that, if they moved out of state or something like that, is that a postmark date or is that it's gonna be in hand?
so one of the things the bill does, that's a great question, is it defines actual notice. Again, Ledge Council will be great at explaining all of this in much more detail. But that being said, actual notice is defined kind of throughout this, out this bill, which is either hand delivered, delivered by sheriff's service, mailed to the last known address or the address provided in the residential rental agreement, emailed to an email address included in the lease agreement and mailed as described. To the last, if the last address is unknown, there is a TAC order that's allowed. And there is created a beautiful presumption that the notice was received in 5 days. So currently, right now, my understanding is it's 14 days postal. With the way our postal system is, we're trying to figure that one out. But it has been, if your postal code is 14 days.
Not to add to your anguish or anything like this, but a lot of times by the time you get a contract, if you have a tenant that does serious damage, like I know that, so instance right now, you don't know what you're getting into and to get a contractor or somebody in there to work on it, to fix it or anything like that is way past 14 days.
Yeah, so we've talked about that. You as a landlord are still able to do your walkthrough. It's going to be very clear that there is damage. And so an itemized receipt is needed regardless currently in law of what has to be done. And that's taken out of the security deposit. If there is damage, that is kind of like depending on if the landlord going to eat it or are they going to bring it to court. That's a separate issue.
Thank you.
That is a very high level version of what this bill does or does not do.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we'll get into some of the details this afternoon. We have Cameron one. I got a question for committee before we break, whether folks are ready to vote on a couple bills now before we break for lunch, or if that's not going to work.
Take a couple minutes.
All right, so why don't we do that, and then we'll start a little bit later. We'll start a quarter after one instead. So,
Look at you being flexible.
I know.
I can't take much.
Kenny, you ready?
Everybody.
He's actually so. We'll start with 744, H744. I'll explain it. I'll get us refocused on this because it's been a good while. This is where we had in the joint judicial rules, there was a proposal, I'll call it the Treadwell proposal, but even he just happens to be the head of the criminal rules committee. Came forward with this change to Rule 3, which would require after hours, if there's an arrest, the court has to determine if there's going to be bail, hold without bail, or conditions of release. And this rule would require the state's attorney to provide the charges that they're likely to put forward for that individual for all those cases. As current practice is, some judges do that, require that. Other judges have some arrangements with state's attorneys if they have certain crimes where they're not going to be concerned. It's straightforward enough that you don't have to have the state's attorney provide the charge right then. Others, I think they have long-established relationships probably with the law enforcement who are coming to the court, and they defer, they understand from law enforcement. So there are lots of other ways that's happening now throughout the state. So we took over that rule because it was very controversial, and we wanted to hear it in here. And I think the bottom line is what we heard is that things are working fine as it is now. And the proposal that we had in 744 would essentially codify what is happening. The rule that had been proposed by the criminal rules committee of the courts would have been a mandate. And it would have been a lot more than what current practice is. So we decided that I thought made it very clear that this was very much the preference of this committee, and other people commented, and that it was working, and we would just be codifying. It ends up that the criminal rules committee went ahead and have promulgated a rule which would become effective July 1st, which has the language which would really kind of, which was the part was very controversial. So I would like to proceed because we are able to, this is within our jurisdiction, and certainly particularly with Rule 3, we often do changes in the legislature that I think that we should resolve this by essentially codifying current practice. So are there any questions on that review? Did I miss anything? Ian, did I miss anything? Was that kind of cover that? We had a number of witnesses that came in on that day as well, sometime ago.
And what day would ours go into effect?
July 2nd, just to make sure if this rule does go ahead by the Criminal Rules Committee, it will be effective July 1st. This would supersede it. I don't know, maybe it will become short-circuited in that process, but we want to make sure. Any questions? I take a motion. Is this, let me see, this is an amendment, isn't it? Let me just, yeah. So there's one change from what we looked at, and that's at the second page. It says that after passage, the title of the bill be amended to read an act relating to procedures for release after arrest. It's just that the title of the bill didn't comport with what the bill was doing. So this is an amendment. So I will just do a straw poll on finding the amendment favorable. All those in favor, raise your hand. And those opposed.
744 still, right? Just
744, the amendment. And I'm looking to make sure I got my. So Coach, are you there? Do you want to vote on that? Hello, Coach? You want to unmute yourself? Hello? Maybe he's not voting. Go ahead.
We leave it open if you change, if you.
Since Alicia's not here, I'd like to postpone.
Yeah, that's fine. We want to let you go. That's correct as well. Well, on this one, I can hold the vote for it. We won't do the other one.
That's not what I'm supposed to hold both.
We're not.
Yeah.
Rule foul. Wow. That's a she.
We know that.
She here?
Where's the motion?
I texted her. So I mean, we can get the preliminary stuff done now and then just vote later.
So on 744,
Yeah,
I
the
think,
preliminary stuff's done, so.
yeah, I did that. I mean, I don't know if there's more discussion on it or not. We can take a motion to, I'm looking for my motions. I have it here. We'll give her a moment to get here.
You want me to go to the cafeteria?
Get her?
Yeah, if you can be quick, yeah, that'd be
I'll be
great.
very quick.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter.
We'll figure this out. No, we'll go ahead with vote.
What's that?
Coach. Coach is trying to get back in because he was having trouble, which is completely possible. All right, and well, this gives me a chance to find my little voting thing, which I thought I had. Make sure I'm asking for the right votes. Okay.
Arson.
I think that worked. We approved the First Amendment. Did you see Zach?
No,
Okay.
I didn't look for him either. I was just in that.
No, come on in. He'll be right back. We're doing-
He went to the cafeteria.
I didn't see the text because I was on a phone call and I just didn't, so I apologize.
No, we're good.
We are live, just letting you know.
We're live.
Did you think I was gonna start cursing?
No, I just feel like, oh, it's good to know.
Just informative, that's all.
Okay, no, thanks. I don't.
So we're looking at 744, and we just had a straw poll to approve the bill as amended, or to approve the amendment. The only amendment was
Oh, so just, okay.
changing the name of what the bill is called.
Sorry.
Trading places.
Name for movie.
That's what I was thinking. We can work on the script.
All right, so, and we had a straw poll on that one, however many people unanimous. But now I would move that we report H744 favorable with amendment. Take a motion
So moved.
for a second. Is
Second.
there any discussion? Ian?
Yeah, I think best legislative practice is just to renew my disclosure that I'm a deputy state's attorney, that this rule change does impact my job directly. And so, but it's not a conflict of interest in any way for me to vote on it, and I've just confirmed that. And I think Martin has done a good job of explaining that this just codifies what is best practice and what's happening right now in counties across the state. And the proposed other change could really drastically change how things are being done for on-call deputy state's attorneys in a way that I think would not be serving Vermonters the best way possible. And if you can tell I'm kind of tired, it's because I'm on call right now and I got a bunch of calls last night. So so I just appreciate the committee's work on this, and I think that this is the right direction to go with it.
Okay, all right. So, Coach, are you with us?
Yes,
All right, there you go. Happy to have you. Happy to have you. So, the clerk can vote. So did you catch what we're voting on, Coach? H744.
yes, I did.
Okay, all right. So the clerk can call.
All right, so who brought it and who?
I made it and
Barbara second.
Barbara seconded.
Arsenal,
Yes.
Dolan,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Postline, yes. Harvey,
Yes.
Boy,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Rachelson, Christie,
Yes,
Burdick,
Yes.
Balon.
Yes, and I guess I will report that one. So let's move on to H849 before we lose everybody. This is the deprivation of constitutional rights. Civil action. We've looked at a number of witnesses. I do understand that this is subject to challenge in court. I do understand that there are headwinds on whether it would be upheld relative to federal officials. I mean, we heard from from the Attorney General's office and challenges, but we also heard some other witnesses that explained that there are very solid arguments. And we certainly have gone ahead with bills in the past, as Tom and I were just talking yesterday, on bills that would be challenged, but we felt they had good arguments. And in fact, some of the bills we've prevailed on in the past. So that, I mean, that's kind of just the basic, the big issue I think hanging over this. The second big issue I think has been, what's going to be the impact on state officials? And it is my understanding, particularly as we added the language on page 2 at the suggestion of Tucker Jones, that I believe addresses that essentially this is not going to have a change for state officials because they are already subject to the federal section 1983 law. And the only difference really is that this can be brought in state court. but it will follow the jurisprudence. And that's what the section C and D do on page 2, because it makes it clear, it follows the jurisprudence under section 1983. So it really doesn't change much except where the forum that a case can be brought against state officials. It definitely, it is a change that this would be a right of action against federal officials for a violation of constitutional rights if they're acting under color of law, which is also defined here. I mean, I could take a motion, then we can have discussion, or do people want to have discussion first? I can either.
No, I'm ready to vote.
All right, so I will take, let me see, this is in fact a amendment, so I will take a motion to approve amendment draft number 3.1 H849 dated 2/26 at 5:30 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's say this is just for the amendment, then we'll have a motion on whether we're going to report it out. So this is just a straw poll. All those in favor can raise their hand. And Coach, are you raising your hand? This is a
Yes.
straw poll. Okay, Coach said yes. And all those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, all right, 6-5 on that. And I will take a motion that we report H849 favorable with amendment.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All right, the clerk can call the roll.
I catch up here.
Oh, sorry.
Arsenal,
Yes.
Dolan,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Bo Slant, no. Harvey,
No.
Malay,
No,
Oliver, no. Rachelson,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Burdick,
No.
Long,
Yes. And I guess I'll report back too. So, all right, so thank you, everybody, for just working through those. And I do appreciate the votes on those, and but we'll plug ahead. And so at 1:15, we will get a walkthrough, and I apologize that we're right before break, but this is 5 days left to get the work done.